Now we're going to see if we're live. Should be. Right? Ooh. Now we're live. Okay. There we go. Hey, guys. What's going on? James here. I think, yeah, okay. We're officially live. There. Now, as I was saying, I don't know if we were live last time, but I'll say it again. Today, we're just kind of hanging out, having a fun live stream. It's the new league year. We're just going to be talking about some more free agency news that has happened. And today, I'm not alone in this endeavor. Last live stream, I had Billy from Owen the Sea here on YouTube with me. And today, I have somebody who everybody should be familiar with because I'm on his show a ton. It's Evan of the Cannon Fire podcast. Now, Rhett is not here today because we're revolting, basically. We had talked about that just a moment ago. Well, Rhett has to know because I asked you both in the group chat if you guys wanted to live stream, and Rhett said, can't do it, man. I'm eating. I don't remember what he said.
Yeah,
But,
it's typical Rhett, family man, putting family first, and
yeah,
that's just that's what he does. That's his MO. So
yeah.
I'm here, and I'm the face of the heel of the program, face of the franchise. That's
right.
basically.
That's right. So, yeah, man, we're just gonna be hanging out, kind of reading some of the chat, seeing who's talking about what. And honestly, Evan, you might be able to give some better insight on some stuff that is getting asked around. So this is actually the first one. I did not hear about this, but I do want your thoughts on this. Did you hear Larry Fitz has interest in the Bucs?
So I have not specifically heard he has interest in Tampa, but I have heard that it's a possibility if the Bucs were unable to sign Antonio Brown, and Larry Fitzgerald wants to keep playing because a lot of people had seemed to sort of signal that Larry Fitzgerald's time in Arizona could be up with the signing of AJ Green today. So it would make a lot of sense if they needed a wide receiver 3 for cheap. It's obviously Bruce Arians knows Larry Fitzgerald very well. Larry Fitzgerald, I'm sure, has a lot of respect for Tom Brady, and Larry Fitzgerald wants to win a Super Bowl, right? So I think if you're looking at a landing spot for Fitzgerald, it would make a lot of sense. A lot of sense to do it in Tampa, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I agree with that. Obviously, if they don't bring back Antonio Brown, Larry Fitzgerald kind of being that next guy who could get some interest would make some sense. Especially, Larry Fitzgerald's never been to the Super Bowl, let alone won the thing. So that could be something that could certainly be a very interesting move. That would just look cool. I mean, I've talked about this about, the Gerald McCoy stuff, about having Gerald McCoy and Ndamukong Suh and Vita Vea all together in one photo. Having Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, and Larry Fitzgerald all together in one photo on the same team. That would look pretty sick. Also, a couple of moves that got made today, Evan, from our Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I haven't made a video on one of them. I've made a video on one, haven't made a video on the other. The one I haven't made a video on, that was the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They didn't tender guard Aaron Stinney, but they re-signed him just to a contract already. I believe it's a $1.25 million deal that can get bumped up to around $2.15 million, something along those lines. So real quick, Evan, what are your thoughts on the contract? What do you think about Stinney coming back?
I mean, yeah, it's fair for depth, and they really need depth along the offensive line. So it makes a lot of sense to do it. And I mean, Stinney was really a no-name and an unknown when he was thrust into the playoffs, basically. And once Alex Kappa went down, and really, I mean, wasn't spectacular, but I mean, he played well enough against some stiff competition. So he played. Alex Kappa got injured in the second half, or I believe late first half of the Washington game. So Aaron Stinney didn't play at all in the Washington game, and then his first start was in New Orleans and played New Orleans, Kansas City, and then obviously played well enough to. I mean, the offensive line was a huge strength, so I think it's fair, and it's good to get him back for another year.
Yeah, I agree. Do you think that there's going to be a type of I guess competition for that starting right guard spot between Alex Kappa and Aaron Stinney? Because me personally, I mean, I'm a big Aaron Stinney guy, so I get way too optimistic about this. By the way, Brandon, yes, okay, I do remember, yes, Larry Fitzgerald did play in the Super Bowl with Kurt Warner versus the Pittsburgh Steelers back in, I think, 2007? 2008?
think it was 2008. I think the year was, yeah, because that was when the Steelers beat them in Tampa. So
Right. So, okay, got it. My bad. Still hasn't won a Super Bowl. Bucks just won a Super Bowl. Point still stands. Anyway, I'm a big Aaron Stinney guy. I could see him competing with Alex Kappa for that starting guard spot, but what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think you could see that just because Kappa would also be coming off an injury too. So, maybe, is he 100% healthy when training camp rolls around? I don't know. I don't know the severity, how his rehab's going and stuff like that. So, I think you could see a little bit of a competition, but I think if it were to be a competition, Kappa would have a pretty big leg up because Alex Kappa was having a really good season before he went down. So.
Yeah, I agree. I think regardless, even if there isn't a competition there, I mean, Stinney's got to be one of the best backup offensive linemen that's on the team right now. So
Yeah, he probably is, especially since, I mean, a lot of their backup linemen are free agents right now. I mean, Joe Haig, Josh Wells, they're both free agents, so you can't really count them. So
right, and I mean, yeah, I know it's a small sample size, and I know there could be like maybe an over exaggeration, but I don't know. I mean, I've already been honest. I'm a big Stinney guy, so that one I think will be a pretty good player to keep an eye on. That being Aaron Stinney. But then the other move that we did make a video here on MrBucsNation about, that being how Ryan Succop has re-signed with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers on a 3-year deal worth $12 million. This was a little bit interesting to me. I think he got only $1 million more per year than I thought he was going to get. I thought he was going to get $3 million per year. He gets $4 million per year. Evan, what are your thoughts on the Ryan Succop signing? How that, or what that means rather, for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers? What that could potentially mean for some of their future moves here coming up?
yeah, I mean, it's something they needed to get done. I don't think if it was any other franchise, I feel like you could kind of get away with. Letting this kicker go if he got too expensive, but not this franchise. I mean, not a franchise that has literally spent the better part of the 2010s searching for a kicker. I mean, ever since Connor Barth went down in the charity basketball game, and was out for the season, they've been searching for that kicker and they haven't found it. They finally do find it, and guess what? They win a Super Bowl with it. So they need to get it done. So I think that it was a fair deal. It was a little bit more than I was expecting. I was expecting, just like you, I was expecting maybe around $2.5–3 million. He made around $1.5 million last year. So, I mean, I knew he was going to get a raise. He was definitely going to get a raise, but a little bit more than I thought. I think a 3-year deal is fair. I would have done maybe a 2-year deal just because like he is getting a little up there in age. And I think you wanted to give yourself, like, kickers are so like mental. Like, it's just such a mental game that, I feel like you want to give yourself a little bit more flexibility there. But nonetheless, I don't really have many concerns about Succop. If you guys listen to the Can Fire podcast, one of our sayings there is, Succop doesn't suck. And he actually, he's very good. And he was literally statistics-wise, the best kicker in franchise history, season-wise, had the most points and stuff. So, yeah, it was a fair deal, and I was a little bit surprised by how much it was, but I get it.
Yeah, I agree. Like you said, he had the best year from a kicker in franchise history. And I said this in my video, and I'll say it here. I know there's a lot of people who are coming from a lot of different walks of life, now coming to support the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I like it. It's cool. I'm happy with it. We're all rooting for the same team. People do not know the struggles that, long-term Bucs fans have had with the kicker problems. I mean, it seemed, there was that stretch where they were literally trying everything, and nothing was working. So they finally struck gold here with Ryan Succop. They say, you know what? Yeah, we're keeping this guy around. I do not blame them for this move at all, even if some people are going to say, come on, man, it's a kicker. Who cares? Bucs fans care. Trust me. My gosh. Jason Light cares. Okay? I mean, these are facts. And yeah, I don't blame the Tampa Bay Buccaneers for making a move like that at all. I am happy they signed him to a long-term deal. You had an interesting point for the Cannon Fire podcast when you said they couldn't negotiate with Ryan Succop until the start of free agency today, right?
It was the start of the tampering period. So a lot of
Okay.
people were wondering why he wasn't re-signed like a Levante David or tagged like a Chris Godwin before free agency, before the tampering period even began. It was because he had signed a 1-year veteran minimum deal that was almost right before the season, and when you do that, you are not allowed to renegotiate a contract with your current team or any team, obviously, until 12 p.m. on which was Monday. So the Bucs weren't allowed. I mean, those conversations happen. Like
Right.
those there legal tampering starts, but there's been illegal tampering for probably the past week or 2 weeks or so. That's why you see those deals happen so quick. So.
Hmm.
Um, the Bucs probably had some contact with him, but they weren't able to like legally negotiate a contract and sign him to that contract until the tampering period started. So it took them a few days, but they were able to get it done.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with all that, man. And that's yeah, I was happy to see that this one didn't linger. I was a little worried whenever I believe his Pewter Report had said this when the Buccaneers were meeting with one of the college kickers, right? And he had one of the he was like, I believe, one of the statistically best college kickers around this time, and I was like, oh no, please tell me this doesn't mean, please tell me this doesn't mean that we're not bringing back Succop. So thankfully that's not the case. Boom, it's finally official, and we can all relax. I'm seeing a lot of people talk about the backup quarterback situation. We will talk about that in a minute. But Evan, two things that are interesting of note to me is involving one player the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are probably going to be bringing back here very soon. I would not be surprised if this move isn't announced maybe tomorrow. But then number two is a couple of players are getting interest from other teams, former Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But the one I want to talk about first, Ndamukong Suh. Um, I'm surprised this move hasn't happened yet. I've seen you've been popping off on Twitter about it, talking about how he is representing himself. That might make things a little bit easier in transition and kind of smooth things over in terms of contract negotiations. So when do you expect kind of a Suh move to get done? How much do you think it'll be worth, and just what are your thoughts on him potentially coming back and how he might play?
Yeah, I definitely think it gets done here sooner rather than later. I think both sides. I don't think Sue really has much interest in going elsewhere. Obviously, money can talk, so if he gets an offer that he really likes, maybe he does take it. But I think he really likes Tampa, and I think the Bucs really want him back as well. So I don't really think that's an issue. But also, he's a very smart player with his money. He's like I think he's like top 10 or whatever, and like who's made the most money in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
He's like a top 10 player like in the history of the NFL. Like he's like a top 10 player or something. He's very smart with his investments, very smart with how he handles his money. So him representing himself, while it may be easier to just deal with him, he knows what he's doing and he knows what he wants.
Hmm.
So a quick note here: a lot of people said, "Well, okay, well that should make it a done deal pretty much because he doesn't have to give his agent a cut." He had fired his agent last offseason, and then about 4 or 5 days later negotiated a deal to come back to the Bucs. So he's done. The Bucs have done this once before with Sue. So I would expect something done 1 year in the $5 to $6 million range or so. I would guess. I would say most of it's probably guaranteed, and then I would expect it done by probably by the end of the weekend here. So
Yeah, I agree with that. One thing I will say that's been interesting with a lot of the contract negotiations for the Bucks, not so much the big contracts, but some of these like smaller, well, not smaller contracts, but the middle tier contracts, like Rob Gronkowski, for example. Me and you had even talked about this, where we were kind of surprised at the dollar value that Gronkowski got. A lot of people were putting him at a couple $1 million less. He gets a couple $1 million more in that situation. Maybe Sue's a similar way. Like you said, it's probably going to get, it'll hopefully get done this weekend or sometime soon. I don't know, man. I don't know. I could just see him making. I always thought like, okay, Gronk and Sue will probably make a very similar amount of money, if not the exact same in terms of dollar value. So I think he might get around $8 million a year. That's gonna be my guess. Is maybe like an $8 million a year contract. I mean, they do love themselves some Sue, so we will see what ends up happening. But like you said, I mean, Sue's been really good for the Bucs for the past couple of years. I'll be honest, and I've been wrong about this. I was worried about Sue coming in. with the character concerns and all these other different types of things. But he came in and he's knocked it out of the park. He really has. He has been an absolutely phenomenal player. I've been very happy to have him on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and I'll be even happier whenever he re-signs. But one more thing I want to cover here before we do talk about that backup quarterback situation, Evan, is two players that are getting interest. And it's actually from the same team. Now, the first guy is Leonard Fournette, who a lot of people still want the Buccaneers to come back on. We talked about this yesterday, and we've talked about this throughout the entire offseason. There's a lot of Leonard Fournette fans out there. Playoff Lenny, Lombardi Lenny, and it's understandable. Leonard Fournette, I like him. He's a good dude. I want him to come back. But there are sacrifices that have to be made in certain situations. And then number two, this one's interesting. Nacho, Raheem Nunez-Roche, has actually been getting some interest from the New England Patriots. Leonard Fournette has been getting some interest from the New England Patriots, and also the Seattle Seahawks, correct?
Correct, yep.
So what are your thoughts on both those guys? Will they go join another team? Where do you see them potentially landing if they don't end up with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, or do you potentially see them just coming back?
Yeah, I think both guys are going to be basically cases where the Bucs just don't have the luxury to be able to spend on them. So I do think both players headed elsewhere. I want to think that Fournette probably signs in Seattle. I feel like Seattle would probably fit him a little bit better. So I think he would. I still think, even though New England's made this splash, I still think Seattle is the better team. So I would say that Fournette probably, I think, would like to go to Seattle. The Bucs want him back. The Bucs have an offer to bring him back, but the Bucs also realize that they're gonna have limited resources when it comes to paying a running back. So the offer's not gonna be much. So it'll definitely be interesting to see where he ends up if he does end up back in Tampa. It could be he could look at this and say, look, the salary cap's going to go up next year. I could have another good year and I could get my $7-8 million a year on a 3-4 year deal next year, right? He could look at it that way. He could also look at it as like, hey, I want the money now, kind of, and either way would be fine, right? As for Nunez-Roches, they want him back. He's a high energy guy. He's a guy that they've really developed. They signed him off of Kansas City's practice squad, I think in 2016 or 2017. So they've had him for a little bit, and he's turned into a really solid depth piece. They don't want to lose him, but also there's a certain limit that you can pay that guy when you're paying the rest of your roster so much. So I would say, I don't know if he ends up in New England because who knows, but I would say that those two guys are probably playing elsewhere, and I think the Bucs are looking in free agency for a running back to fill the role of Fournette, and maybe for a nose tackle / 3-4 defensive end to fill the role of Nacho over there.
Yeah, I agree with all that in terms of both those guys leaving, going to different teams. First off, in the case of Raheem Nunez-Roche, like you said, what did he make? $1.5 million on his last contract.
Yeah, it was very small. He was a free agent last year. So he re-signed with the Buccaneers last year, and I believe it was around 1.5. So he's probably looking at 2.5 or so, and I think the Bucs would are probably still at that 1.5, maybe 1.75, give him a little bump, but I just don't think they're gonna be able to. I don't think they're gonna be willing to really bend over backwards to try and bring this player back.
Yeah, I agree. I'm happy for Nacho. He made himself some good money. Whenever he came in replacement of Vita Vea, he looked solid enough. In terms of being that kind of fill-in guy. I could see him still going to maybe like another playoff team that's maybe looking for some depth. Like, I don't know, maybe he'll go to the Rams. They just got rid of Michael Brockers. So maybe he could end up going to the Rams. Maybe he could end up going to like another team in the NFC or AFC that just kind of is running a 3-4 defense where, he can just kind of have a similar role to maybe what he had in Tampa. Because, he's looked fine. He's looked pretty good in that role, So, but like you said, he's earned himself a pay raise. He's earned himself, a chance to probably go make more money elsewhere. And then same thing can be said for Leonard Fournette. We talked about this a couple of days ago. We've been talking about this, the entire off season, really. And I still hold true to this. Fournette's going to want to go somewhere. I think that he wants to be the full-time starter. and he's going to want his money. Those are the two things. And I don't blame him for that. He deserves that, I imagine that his agent will probably be, playing that tape of this Buccaneers playoff run and going, hey, this is what he can do whenever he's the starter in the playoffs. Imagine if you had him for the whole season and the playoffs, he'll do great, Still left a little bit to be desired in terms of receiving back, but I mean, he's still, what is he, 26, 27?
Fournette?
Yeah.
I think so. I think he might be 26 because I think,
yeah.
I mean, he was on his, I think he was on his 5th-year option in Jacksonville, I believe. So,
okay.
Yeah, I think he's 26. Actually, I don't know. Did he play? I'm gonna look that up right now.
Sure. While you're looking
he was in the same draft class as O.J. Howard, I think. So
okay.
O.J. Howard's 5th-year option is this year, so that would have made Fournette's.
Mm-hmm. Well, you're looking that up real quick. Yeah, he's a young dude. I mean, with running backs too, they got to make their money when they can. So that's just another reason to support, Fournette. It's not that the Buccaneers don't want him back. Like Evan said, they have that offer out there for him. They want to bring him back, but there's a lot of teams out there that, there's a handful of teams out there that could use the services of Fournette. I mean, he's, a lot of people have been linking him to like the Atlanta Falcons. What were you saying, Evan? Looks like you're about to.
So, yeah, he's 26 years old. He just turned 26 on January 18th. So
okay, awesome. Yeah, I could see him going to like the Atlanta Falcons. I could see him going to, maybe like the New York Jets. They're a team that could use a running back like Leonard Fournette, a couple of other teams as well. It'd be a weird thing with the Patriots because I feel like he'd be in a very similar situation to what he had in Tampa Bay,
right?
Where he'd be in a running back by committee with, at least Sony Michel and then probably a couple of other guys as well. And then who knows what would happen after that. But yeah, I think Lenny's going to want to go somewhere where he can be a starter, which, again, I don't blame him for that. Get his money, get that starting opportunity, and, more power to him. He got his Super Bowl, he did. So I'm sure people can't be that disappointed. But I do want to talk about this backup quarterback situation because I've been seeing a lot of people in the chat mentioning it, Evan. So this backup quarterback situation, right now as it stands, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they don't have a backup quarterback, right? Because they didn't have
Technically, no. Technically, they do not.
Right, because they didn't have anybody else on their practice squad after Josh Rosen left, which kills both of us because I know that is one of our best bonding points is that me and you are big Josh Rosen guys.
Yeah, that was definitely a good day when they signed him. It wasn't something I expected. It was sort of like a gag, like a running gag that we were doing, and that just ended up happening. Yeah, so it was a good day when they signed him, sad day when he left. But then they did add a quarterback to the practice squad. It was Drew Stanton, but
right.
he's a free agent too. So yeah, technically they have no other quarterback besides Tom Brady on their roster.
Okay, yeah. So Josh Rosen, he re-signed with the 49ers. That stung, but that is the case. Blaine Gabbert, he is a free agent right now. Ryan Griffin, he is a free agent as well. They're both on my free agency board, by the way, just as potential names to come back. Real quick, Real Talk Perez says, James, we have to do another schedule prediction live stream. We did one and won a Super Bowl. Got to keep the tradition. For sure, man, I'm down. Also, Bucs Report in here. Hello, Bucs Report. Hello, guys. Okay, we're getting all the content creators in here. Hell yeah. But back to the backup quarterback situation. So, it's not a secret. I'm a big Blaine Gabbert fan. The gift of Gabbert. He's a great dude. He's gonna come back, I imagine. Right?
Yeah, I don't think there's much question there. They love him. He seems to love it here. That'll be pretty easy to work. He won't be expensive. That'll be pretty easy to work out. That'll be something that happens last. They're not gonna. They know that they don't really think anybody's gonna scoop him up.
Yeah, I mean, it could honestly be a situation where they just probably have some type of verbal agreement with Blaine Gabbert, like, hey, just let us get some more stuff done, and then we'll just give you the contract to sign here coming up, somewhere down the line, But the second one, the third quarterback situation is interesting. Ryan Griffin, myself personally, I don't know if Ryan Griffin's going to come back. And this is gonna be maybe a bit of a stretch, but I think Ryan Griffin will probably want to at least look to go somewhere where he has a chance to be the number 2 guy. I don't know what that team is, I have no clue, but somewhere where he could potentially be the number 2 quarterback instead of being the number 3. Now, he's made a lot of money, had a great career as the third string quarterback for many years with Tampa Bay. But I could see Ryan Griffin saying, you know what, I'm obviously not going to get my shot here in Tampa Bay. That's very obviously not going to happen. I'm going to go elsewhere. I'm going to go to a different team, and we're just going to see what happens there. So Evan, what are your thoughts on Ryan Griffin? Do you think he'll potentially come back? What do you think is going to happen in that situation?
I actually do think Griffin comes back. For one reason, if this was not necessarily a normal offseason, but Tom Brady is had that cleanup on his knee, and Bruce Arians had said that probably the first time he'll throw is around training camp. The Bucs want to have a quarterback that knows the system before want to have more than one quarterback. Because right now it would only be Blaine Gabbert. If you actually have OTAs, mini camp, stuff like that, it would just be Blaine Gabbert. And I think the Bucs would really want another quarterback that knows the system and is reliable enough to be able to throw balls. So I think they bring back Griffin. I don't see a reason why Griffin would want to leave. To me, he's got the best job in the world. I mean, the dude never dresses on game, doesn't even have to dress in a uniform, and he's making like $1 million. You're not getting injured. You literally get to practice. You don't get to play, but you get to sit in the press box, watch the game. I don't see an issue. So I don't think he'll have any troubles coming back, and I think he will be back. So I know there's a lot of big Ryan Griffin fans out there, so that'll be good. If Tom Brady didn't have that knee issue, I think maybe they would have moved on, but I do think they want a quarterback that's familiar with the system enough to, in April, May, when you're doing all these off-season programs and stuff, you're able to have those two guys there. So
okay. Now I will say this. I'll counter that. I do think the Buccaneers will have 2 quarterbacks. Blaine Gabbert will know the system, but I kind of envision them maybe getting a younger guy, whoever that may be.
Nick Jones, huh?
Well, I'm not saying the draft. I mean, Nick Mullins is out there, I mean, they might go for a Nick Mullins, a Joshua Dobbs. I mean, there's a couple of guys out there. I'm trying to think of who else would be available. Somebody said Mitchell Trubisky in the chat. Yeah, no. he ain't coming to Tampa Bay. One guy
I'd rather have Gabbert.
I love Blaine Gabbert. The gift of Gabbert. So anyway, one thing I was going to say, though, and it's not going to happen. I wish it would, because that'd just be so cool. I even tweeted about it today. Was apparently there's a little bit of a trade market developing for Gardner Minshew.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
You're not a Gardner Minshew guy, Evan? How are you
It would just be so funny to me. It would just be so funny if that were to happen. And it won't, but it would be very, very funny. And it would actually maybe mean that the Buccaneers view Minshew as a piece for the future. Yeah. It's not going to happen, but man, it would be funny. He's very cheap because he was a 5th or 6th round pick. Yeah. So he's very cheap contract. He's still on that rookie deal. I believe he has either 1 or 2 more years left on that rookie deal. It would be interesting, but I just don't see a fit there. But I mean, it would be fun. That's what I have to say. As a person who covers the team, it'd be pretty fun to cover a guy like that.
Yeah, I also saw somebody say sorry, I'm updating my free agency board. I also saw somebody say Sam Darnold. That one's not going to happen either. No. I think Sam Darnold will, he'll get traded to somewhere where he has probably a chance to start.
And he'll also be traded for a 2nd or 3rd round pick. And right. The Buccaneers are not doing that. So.
What do you think the trade price for Gardner Minshew would be?
I don't know, maybe like a 4th, like a 5th, maybe.
Yeah. That's fair.
Maybe 2 draft picks if you added like a 5th this year and like a 6th next year or something like that. So, but I don't know. I would rather you pick your own quarterback in the draft that you'd like, and you can try to develop them there rather than do that. But whatever. I mean, it wouldn't be the worst. I could think of worse options, but yeah, and I think if Minshew comes, you're definitely guaranteeing him a spot as QB2. And I mean, like I said earlier, they really love Gabbert, so I have a tough time seeing it happen. Although it would be Just
phenomenal.
super fun. You want to talk about a football team with a bunch of characters on it? It would be
It would be the
it would be very
best.
fun.
It would be the absolute best. By
But
the
people
way,
would be going around Tampa wearing bandanas and short shorts and
TB12 shirts.
with TV12 like crop tops basically. I mean, I already do that, in like 30-degree weather here, so I mean, it wouldn't really be a change for me, but that's my other personality that nobody else sees. But
Oh my God.
yeah, I mean, I gotta pay the bills somehow, James.
That's right.
It would be very funny, but I just don't think it happens. It's an interesting idea, though. It really is.
By the way, if anybody has any free agents or just anything we want to talk about, go ahead and put in the chat. Like I said, this is honestly just kind of a chill stream. I had an epiphany just a couple of minutes ago, and I got rid of Ryan Griffin on my free agency board. This is just my free agency board, to be honest. It's just people I want to see. I got rid of Ryan Griffin, and I replaced him with Mike Glennon. Mike Glennon's a free agent. He's a free agent, Evan. He has the history.
Yeah, he is.
He's been with Byron Leftwich. Jason Light loves him. I'm just saying.
When was he with Byron?
In Arizona.
Oh, he was in Arizona for like a quick minute, wasn't he?
That's right.
Oh, Jesus.
That's right. Bring my boy home. Bring back Mike Glennon. Could you imagine?
Didn't Mike Evans call Mike Glennon like a baller like a year ago or something? Like he tweeted it out. And he was like, "Stop hating on Mike Glennon, dude's a baller." And I was like, "Oh my God."
Well, I will say, Mike Glennon's got a lot of crap. I think for weird tangent. Mike Glennon, it's not Mike Glennon's fault that teams pay him all this money. That's not Mike Glennon's fault. It really isn't. If you want to get mad at anybody, get mad at the GMs, okay?
It was really only one team, though. It was
just the Bears.
The stupid Bears.
But everybody got pissed off about it. Poor Mike.
I know. Well, I still think that was one of Light's biggest mistakes, not trading Mike Glennon when he had the shot. Like, he was just, like, he valued a backup quarterback so much behind Jameis Winston. But, I mean, Jameis Winston rarely missed time. But he valued a backup quarterback behind Winston so much that he just wouldn't trade Mike Glennon. And people were calling about Mike Glennon. There was a report out there that apparently somebody offered a second-round pick for Mike Glennon, and Light said no. I don't think that's true.
No.
Anybody offers a second-round pick for your backup quarterback, when it would be different if he was if Winston was like 38 and he was and Glennon was 23 waiting in the wings. That's different. But when Winston's 24 years old and Mike Glennon's, sitting there at 26 and he's the backup, Glennon's the backup quarterback, you get offered a second-round pick, you're taking a second-round pick. So they were not offered a second-round pick from Mike Glennon. The offers were probably around, if I had to guess, around, fourth, fifth maybe, but I still would have done it. You try to get as many draft picks as possible. But Mikey G, that would be something, huh?
Do you remember whenever he first went off in a free agency and Jason Light really wanted to keep him? I think he offered him like $8 million a year.
$8 million. Yep, he offered him $8 million it was like a 3-year deal. I think he offered him $8 million, and then he ended up leaving, and they ended up signing Ryan Fitzpatrick. So
yeah, which I mean, he's with the Washington football team now. Do you think he's gonna start there?
Yeah, and I'll tell you right now, Washington's gonna be good, guys. Like they are. They're gonna be good. They just signed Curtis Samuel tonight. They're gonna be freaking good. Like they really are. Yeah.
They signed Curtis Samuel. They have Terry McLaurin right now. A big thing. I can't remember who said it. I think it was Richard Sherman, honestly, or Jalen Ramsey. One of those two said if Terry McLaurin just gets a solid number 2, he'll be great. And he's got a solid number 2 now, that being Curtis Samuel. So that's going to be really...
I mean, the Washington football team, sorry to cut you off, but
you're good.
They upgraded quarterback, they upgraded their number 2 wide receiver, and they upgraded cornerback with William Jackson, shutdown corner. That's one of the most underrated signings in this entire free agency. It's not being talked about enough. They let Ronald Darby walk to Denver for $10 million a year, signed William Jackson for 15, I believe. Jackson is the number 1 corner there. With that defensive line, man, oh man. And I mean, you're adding to a secondary with Landon Collins in it. I believe Kendall Fuller, sorry. Mm-hmm. Kendall Fuller's in it. A lot of talent on that defense. And I mean, their offense now has a spark. Fitzpatrick's going to win. Obviously, he's going to lose some games, but he's going to win you a bunch of games too, I think. So, Now he's got some guys to throw to. They have Antonio Gibson. They've brought back Brandon Scherf. If they can get a tackle in the draft, I think that team is going to win 10, 11 games maybe.
Wow.
I honestly
With
do.
Fitz?
I'm really high on the Washington football team right now. I'm buying into it.
Oh man. I do love me
They
some
just they
Fitz.
just won they just won 10 games with Fitz starting most of the games in Miami.
It's a good point, actually. It's a very good point. Yes, by the way, Curtis Samuel did go to Washington. We're going to talk about some of the other league moves here in a little bit. I do see some people asking about James White and his potential about coming to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So let's
You,
touch.
you mean he's not already on that team?
Right? You would think, a lot of people have assumed that James White is just already here. What are your thoughts on the whole James White thing? Do you think it's going to happen? If so, you know, when do you think it's going to happen? And just kind of your thoughts on the James White potentially to Tampa Bay. It sounds like he's getting actually a lot of interest from a handful of teams.
Yeah, and Adam Schefter's reported that one of those teams is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and um, I don't want to say set in stone that he comes to Tampa, but I think the likelihood really shoots up if Fournette leaves. Obviously, if Fournette stays, they're not signing James White because I think they're dead set on drafting a running back in the first 3 rounds this year. I would put big money that at some point in the first 3 rounds, they're going to do it. They're going to pull the trigger on a running back. I know people say, oh, Keyshawn Vaughn and Ronald Jones. Ronald Jones is a free agent next year. And Keyshawn Vaughn, what has he showed you? They're trying to win now. Okay? They view Keyshawn Vaughn as a project right now. So do you really want to rely on a guy you consider a project when you're trying to win another Super Bowl? I don't. I mean, if Ronald Jones wasn't injured in the pregame warmups, Keyshawn Vaughn wouldn't even have played at all in the Washington game. So
Mm-hmm.
they just don't trust him like that, and rightfully so. And I mean, he did get a raw deal with there being no offseason. But I mean, he was a third round pick, and Zach Moss was picked a few picks behind him. Zach Moss had a much better rookie season, and yet again, he's a rookie. But Antoine Winfield, Tristan Wirfs, and Tyler Johnson all made contributions, big contributions. Why couldn't Vaughn? So I think I said it last year that they were going to take a running back in the first 3 rounds. They did. It was Vaughn. Excuse me. I do think they're going to take another one here, but back to James White. I think it's a natural fit, and obviously the connection's obvious, but I think it all depends on what Fournette does, and obviously it comes down to money too. I personally don't think they want to spend over around $3 million on a cap hit
Mm-hmm.
for a running back, so we'll see what happens there. If I had to guess, I would probably if like right now it's March 17th. Happy St. Patrick's Day, everyone. If I had to guess right now, I would say Fournette probably goes elsewhere and they do sign James White, but I can't confirm that. But we'll see what happens. There's a lot of different pass catching backs. If they don't get James White, it's not the end of the world.
Yeah. I was actually going to say, if they do not get Fournette, he does not come back. He goes somewhere else. But they also don't get James White. Do you see them still looking to get a receiving back in free agency and draft a running back in the draft?
Yeah,
Okay.
I think so. I think you could be looking at maybe like a Chris Thompson in free agency. Who I actually suggested last year. Tevin Coleman, Jarek McKinnon, Duke Johnson might be on the higher end, but I think you could be looking at those names. Theo Riddick on a lower end. So I think you could be looking at those types of guys. But yeah, I don't I don't picture them going after a Kenyon Drake, James Conner, or anything like that. I think the highest name that they'd be going after is a Leonard Fournette to retain him. So I think then after that, it's close James White. Jamal Williams was the guy who was on eyeing. He went to Detroit. Marlon Mack was the guy who was eyeing. He went back to Indy. So there's a few options that are they're not there anymore. So
Right.
we'll see what happens. But I mean they have a lot of options. But I do think basically they're going to use a running back in FA. I'm used to texting it in free agency to replace LaShawn McCoy, basically, who won't be back.
Right.
So they'll still probably have 4 running backs or so, maybe 5 running backs into the season. So yeah, you sign one and you draft one.
Yeah. I think I agree with you there. It actually, I just saw the Marlon Mack deal. That stings. It's a 1 year, $2 million contract. Um, maybe with incentives it gets bumped up a little bit more. That seems like a little bit small for a Marlon Mack, don't you think?
Well, he's dealing with that injury, with that Achilles injury in week 1,
Mm-hmm.
so he missed all of last year pretty much. It's confusing to me why. It's not confusing to me the deal he got. It's confusing to me why he went back to Indy, because he's just going to sit behind what's his
Jonathan
name?
Taylor.
Jonathan Taylor. I was going to say Jason Taylor. Yeah, Jonathan Taylor and Naeem Hines. He's just going to sit behind those guys. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't really know. Maybe he thinks, yeah, next year maybe you can get 4 or 5 million on a 1 year prove it deal.
Mm-hmm.
When the cap goes back up, more teams are willing to spend. If you're completely healthy for the year, more teams are going to be willing to spend. That's probably what his mindset is. It's just questionable to me why he would go to Indy. Unless that was his only offer, I feel like there could have been another team out there that would have given him at least a few more snaps and more opportunity. But hey,
Whenever I look at free agents, I always try and think of guys who have like connections to this coaching staff and have
yeah,
connections to the front office and everything. Amir Abdu-
connections to Brady now.
right. Well, yeah, that's a good point. James White. Amir Abdullah. I remember what was it from? There was some series that
All or nothing.
it was All or Nothing. Yeah, where Bruce Arians really wanted Amir Abdullah. So now every
Mhm.
time Amir Abdullah is a free agent, I always go, man, will they sign him? Do you think Amir Abdullah could be an option? He's not really a receiving back though, is he?
I mean, he can do it. I mean, he's not bad. He can also maybe kick and punt return a little bit, which I think they need. I think that's something that they need, and I'll get into a few names that I'm actually eyeing up here in a little bit. But um, I think they could do it. I'm actually rewatching All or Nothing with the Cardinals right now. If you guys haven't watched it, if you guys have Amazon Prime Video, it is on there. It's a 10 episode series, I think, uncensored, just a season with the Arizona Cardinals. It was the first ever season of All or Nothing. It's fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
It is fantastic. I watched it right before the Bucs hired Bruce Arians because of anticipation that they were going to
Mm-hmm.
hire him. It also doesn't show just Bruce Arians. It shows Harold Goodwin. It shows Kevin Ross. It shows a lot of different people. It actually shows former Bucs defensive line coach Brenston Buckner as well. So
Mm-hmm.
it shows a lot of different guys. And yeah, one of the things, the first episode, I think it was them in the draft room, and they wanted Amir Abdullah so bad, and they thought they had him, and Detroit ended up picking him, and so they went with Marcus Golden in the second round. And then in the third round, they drafted some kid named David Johnson. So I don't really think they were regretting that. Now, still, Abdullah's a solid pro, but I think Johnson's the better player.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, Amir Abdullah is a free agent, and there is a connection there. However, they had a chance to sign him last year because he was a free agent, and they didn't do it. I don't know. We'll see. Maybe it all depends on price, maybe. But we will see what happens. I think it's smart to make that connection, especially since a guy like Abdul, I think, is versatile enough, and he'd be on the cheaper end for sure. But I'm not convinced that it happens just because like they've had chances to do it in the past. It's the same thing with the Adrian Peterson thing. Like they've had a chance to sign Adrian Peterson every offseason, and they haven't done it. So
That's true. He does have that connection with Bruce Arians too.
right,
He traded BA traded for him from the Saints, which is interesting. I see a lot of people talking about some draft stuff. We're not really going to get into the draft too much yet. We're going to save that for probably around the start of April. We're going to let kind of free agency sift through and finish up talking about that throughout the month of March. So we will get into some draft talk later on here in the next couple of weeks. But just for this live stream, we're chilling, we're vibing, but we're also talking about free agency. I see a lot. By the way, I see a lot of people, and I want your thoughts on this. There has been such a freaking divide. Which, hello, Sean, how are you? About OJ Howard and Cam Brate, and who the Bucs should move on from. I'm seeing people say, nah, keep Cameron Brate, move on from OJ Howard. Nah, keep OJ Howard, move on from Cameron Brate. What are your thoughts on that entire situation, Evan?
To me, it's a simple solution. It's you keep the better football player. Who's the better football player? OJ Howard. Like, I'm sorry, Cameron Brate's contributions to this team were huge, and ever since 2015, they were humongous. And, they let him go. He ended up signing to the Saints practice squad. And then I think, the Bucs signed him back off the Saints practice squad. And ever since then, he's been on the Bucs. He won't be forgotten in Tampa Bay. He especially since he's won a Super Bowl now. He caught the Lombardi freaking trophy. He won't be forgotten in Tampa Bay, but it's time. If they were, I just don't see a way you can keep Cameron Brate at $6.5 million to be your third string tight end, and I don't think they're gonna cut OJ Howard. They love OJ Howard. They really want to see him healthy. And I understand that's why some fans will say, well, cut Howard because he's not healthy. I get it. But when he is healthy, I think he's the type of guy Tom Brady would love to throw to. I mean, you put him and Gronkowski running down, the seams, and, Tom Brady loves to throw that seam ball. Cameron Brate, he was barely getting any snaps before OJ Howard went down. I mean, I was surprised. I was like, what is he even doing here? Like, he literally took up $6.5 million. He did take a pay cut last year. I believe 4.25 or something was the salary last year.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to have to take an even bigger pay cut if he wants to stay again, because they're even more strapped for cash. So I ultimately think he is cut, but it wouldn't surprise me if he takes a pay cut, because I think he's done it before. I think he loves Tampa. He wants to stay here, but he's going to have to take like a $3 million pay cut, 3.5. Like, you can't come back on that salary to be a third string tight end.
Mm-hmm. I agree with that. I mean, a big thing I said in a recent live stream we did here too was, if getting rid of Cam Brate, and clearing up that cap space means that you can bring back Ndamukong Suh, you do it, And,
right.
And there's a lot of Cam Brate fans out there. I'm not down
as there should be. He's a solid, valuable player. But when you have Rob Gronkowski, if Rob Gronkowski signed with the Bills, okay, keep Cameron Brate, and you have Brayton Howard, whatever. But when you have Rob Gronkowski and you have OJ Howard, there's just not a need for Cameron Brate. I understand that OJ Howard has not played a full season. I get it, right? But also, like, you're just looking at the potential thing, man. OJ Howard, I think, is the more talented tight end, and I think that in this offense, he fits a role better than Brate does. Howard's a better receiving threat. Howard's a better blocking threat, and he has more potential, and he's younger. So, yeah, and I know a lot of people have asked me about a Brate restructure. Brate's going to be 30 going into the season. They're not restructuring his contract and guaranteeing him money next year. So that's not going to happen. But, if he is cut, I'm going to miss him. But it's, like you said, you're not losing Ndamukong Suh, or, if you do lose Ndamukong Suh and you want to sign somebody else, you're like, let's say a Justin Houston, who I've been bringing up a lot. You're not going to not sign Justin Houston over Cameron Brate. Like, that's not going to happen. So it's a tough decision, but it's one that you're going to have to make.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of what you said there. I think the latest I saw on it was they were having a debate about it. Right, the Bucs are kind of like kind of trying to decide on what to do with Cameron Brate. I believe you said that, didn't you?
No, it was Pewter Report. Pewter Report. I reported it from Pewter Report, but Scott Reynolds was the one with the original scoop. Said the three things that they were debating on to clear up cap spaces: giving Ryan Jensen an extension to lower his 2021 cap hit, giving Donovan Smith an extension to lower his 2021 cap hit, and then either cutting Cameron Brate or asking him to take a pay cut. I believe he has said that they have not approached Brate about taking a pay cut yet, but they're currently considering it. So,
do you? I do want to talk about the Jensen and Donovan Smith stuff in a minute here, but for just kind of finish up talking about the Brate stuff, do you think they could potentially trade him now that we're kind of at the start of the new league year, or would a lot of teams just figure like you're going to release him anyway,
Yeah, exactly. No team, especially in a year where the cap went down. Mm-hmm. No team is gonna trade anything for a guy like a 30-year-old tight end making $6.5 million, who's not like one of the elite tight ends. Mm-hmm. You could have some value in OJ Howard because he's young enough, but like I would rather keep Howard. So, like I just said, so if you're trading Cameron Brate, like. Yeah, you're not going to get much of a return. If you do, you might have to eat some of his salary. Like, it might be like you get a 6th-round pick and you have to eat $2 million of his salary. Why not just cut him? So,
right.
There's not going to be much, if any, market for him.
Now, two things you just said that were interesting, and I do want to jump back to that, is Donovan Smith and Ryan Jensen, them restructuring their contracts, pulling a Brady, kind of, having maybe an extra. Would you think it'd probably be just an extra year each that they might put on their
Um,
deals?
for Jensen, I think it would be an extra year. For Donovan Smith, I think it might be 2 or maybe even 3 years.
Okay.
Because Donovan Smith's young enough. So um, I do think that it would be something like that. But I also think Donovan Smith is less likely to happen. So just because Smith knows, like, if he enters free agency next year with the cap rising by 25, $30 million, he could potentially get paid. So I don't know if he's going to be too eager to sign an extension unless it's a bigger money one. But we'll see. I mean, I know John later brought up the point, like, if he signs a 2-year extension, technically, he would enter free agency when he's 30, can still get pretty big money. So if if he's playing at a high level.
Yeah.
But as far as Jensen goes, I think he's a candidate for a 1 year. Just keep him in Tampa Bay, not have to worry about if you draft a developmental center to take over this year. Cool, but like you're not forced to do it. So
Right. Right. I gotcha. Yeah, that would definitely be. I would think. Do you think either one of those moves will realistically happen?
I I think the Jensen one will.
Okay.
I don't think Donovan Smith's gonna get the extension because I don't think Donovan Smith's gonna want the extension. I think Ryan Jensen is going to be open to extension, and I think they'll probably do it. I'm not sure how much money they'll save. It all depends on how they structure it, but I mean, if it saves you $5-6 million this year, it's worth it. Especially since Jensen's still playing at a very high level. And another thing that Pewter Report actually brought up, if you give Jensen and Smith both extensions, that helps you out next year because, and especially with this year, planning the offseason and your draft, how you approach the draft, you would have only one starter on the offensive line be a free agent. Right now, currently in 2023, only two offensive starters are scheduled. Actually, 2022, only two offensive starters are scheduled to be on the team. That's Tristan Wirfs and Ali Marpet. The
Mm-hmm.
rest, Alex Kappa, Donovan Smith, and Ryan Jensen, are all three free agents. Do you want to deal with all three of them in one offseason? No, you probably don't. So I think it'd be wise to at least get one of them. Alex Kappa is not going to. Donovan Smith, not likely. I think Jensen is the most likely one. I think they'll end up doing that. So
I gotcha. All right, right on. We'll definitely keep an eye on that throughout the next couple of days here in terms of all the moves that Tampa Bay Buccaneers could make. There's still a lot for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to do. Do you know of any other names that have been really connected in terms of the reports out there the past couple of days to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers? I know James White's one, but a lot of it's just been Buccaneers bringing back their own people, right?
yeah, I wouldn't expect them to add any outside free agent until they know what they have.
Mm-hmm.
If they lose Fournette, they'll replace Fournette. If they lose Brown, I still think they're gonna replace Brown. Maybe it is with a Larry Fitzgerald. Maybe it's with it's just a project receiver that they signed for $2 million. I think they would sign a receiver to at least compete. So I think the only way they're signing outside free agents is if they lose guys. Like if they lose Suh, I think they would look to replace Suh.
Mm-hmm.
So I do think that they're strictly looking at bringing all their guys back, and then they'll worry about what they have to do later on.
Okay, I gotcha. Well, guys, we're gonna keep on going here for just a few more minutes. And now I kind of want to get into some of the other moves that have been made around the league. So actually, this one was happening while we were live streaming. Kyle Van Noy is actually returning to the Patriots on a 2-year, $13.2 million deal, which is pretty interesting. He's now joining Trent Brown and Ted Karras as three guys who have left New England and are now back in New England, which is interesting. Somebody actually made a very interesting point here. The Patriots are getting a 4th-round composition pick for losing Kyle Van Noy to Miami last season.
And they have Kyle Van Noy on their team.
And now they have Kyle Van Noy and the draft pick. That's insane.
Yeah.
I was shocked, actually, when the Dolphins got rid of Kyle Van Noy.
It was surprising, yeah, especially since you heard a lot of reports of him being really that locker room leader and that guy that you can, sort of rely on. And, yeah, I mean, it's a strange world with the cap going down, a lot of teams trying to find money any way they can, and it's just amazing to me. The Buccaneers have not released or lost a single player yet. and
No.
it's really it really is amazing.
Yeah, that's actually been incredible because usually what happens is, with the Super Bowl teams, those
Right.
guys get insane amounts of money. Even the backups, they go off and they go be starters for other teams and make just insane amounts of money. We have not seen that yet with Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now that could change. There's still a lot of guys out there. Obviously, if the Buccaneers let some of their guys leave, they would go sign probably big money deals. But the Buccaneers just aren't letting that happen.
Doesn't
Gronkowski.
seem like they are.
Now, there's not really any reported. Shaq Barrett said that there was some interest from some other teams, but he said he wanted to come back to Tampa Bay. Correct?
Yeah, I would guess that there was probably interest, and there was probably some teams that are offering a little bit more than Tampa, but I don't think there was any teams that crossed that $20 million point.
Okay.
I think if they did cross that $20 million point, I think he probably would have walked. But I think the teams that were offering him money were probably offered. I don't have a source on this, but they were probably offered him, 18 and a half, maybe 19 mil a year. And Barrett was like, why not just come back? Like, I want to be in Tampa. Like, that's my first choice. So for just, $1 million less, $2 million less, why not just come back?
Mm-hmm. I gotcha. And I thought that was pretty interesting to see that Shaq Barrett did have some offers on him. Haven't really heard anything about Suh getting any offers right now. I mean,
No.
that could definitely be something that, it's honestly just not being talked about.
Suh or Antonio Brown, you haven't really heard much on their markets. So
Yeah, so that is very interesting. Something else that was interesting was it wasn't Shaq. Somebody else had Gronkowski. He had the deal from
yeah.
Buffalo. Was there any word as to how close he was to or how much thought he was actually putting into that, or was it just kind of like, okay, yeah, I have an offer from Buffalo. I'm still signing with Tampa, but thanks for the offer.
I think that's what it was. Yeah, I don't really think he actually. I don't think he actually like. I mean, I think Buffalo was a curious situation to where maybe he might have thought about it for a second, just because one, they're his hometown team, and two, they're a Super Bowl contender. I think that combination probably maybe put a thought in his head, but ultimately, Tampa was. It was going to have to be a heck of an offer to be able to beat Tampa's offer. So,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, to be able to leave Tom Brady. So, I don't think Gronkowski probably considered it for a second, but it was literally like, okay, cool, I got this offer. Well, no, I'll probably still go back to Tampa, like you said. Thanks, though, and I think that was probably the extent of it.
Right. I agree with that. Um, by the way, just kind of talking about some more moves here from around the league today. Marlon Mack, we talked about this earlier. He did sign with the Colts. Lamar Miller signed a 1-year contract with the Washington football team. That's pretty interesting.
Yeah, actually, it was technically a re-signing because he was on our team for like a cup of coffee
Oh,
towards the
okay.
end of the season. I think he signed like December 17th or something. He signed with Washington. So technically, they re-signed Lamar Miller.
Hmm.
He would have been an interesting option, but I think he's kind of cooked, and I think there would have been better options out there. So
Yeah. The Kansas City Chiefs, they signed Darrell Williams and they released Damian Williams. Now, actually, real quick, is Damian Williams a guy that could potentially be somebody the Tampa Bay Buccaneers look at for that receiving back role?
possibly, but like he hasn't played football in a year. He opted out.
Mm-hmm.
So you're not really sure what you're getting, and I mean, it all depends on price. Maybe, but he was another guy that I think really sort of benefited from an up and down regular season, and then just had a monster playoff run, and was a playoff Damien or whatever his name was, playoff Dame, whatever. And Sort of the same case with Fournette. So I'm not sure how much interest there will be there, but
Mm-hmm.
he's an interesting name and a name that I don't think many expected to be available. So.
Mm-hmm. Also, some other moves that have been made. Raiders traded away basically their entire
Yeah,
offensive line.
yeah.
Oh my gosh. Gabe Jackson gets traded to the Seahawks. That move's done now, trying to make Russell Wilson a little bit happier. And then the other one was their center. Who's their center's name? I can't remember this.
Rodney Hudson.
Rodney Hudson. He got traded to the 49ers? Or the Cardinals, rather.
Cardinals.
Yeah, he got traded to the Cardinals, rather. So that was a couple
Cardinals
of
had a busy day today.
They did. They also signed AJ Green to a contract,
Yes,
right?
correct.
So that's interesting. I did not even realize AJ Green played it a whole year last year. Uh, and then I actually looked at his stats, and I thought, oh man, he must have missed like some games. Nope, he didn't. He just had a really, really, really bad year. So we'll see if he can rebound with Arizona there. Also, Arizona lost one of their own as Patrick Peterson signed a 1-year, $10 million deal with the Minnesota Vikings. So that's pretty freaking interesting there. I know a lot of people had him connected to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers since, last offseason?
Yeah, probably went as soon as Bruce Arians came to Tampa. So,
Right.
I mean, because it's easy to make that Cardinal connection. It really is. The same thing with Bruce Arians' first off season with the Honey Badger, right? And there was real interest on the Bucs and Tyrann Mathieu's end, but money, and that's the same reason why a guy like Patrick Peterson has never been in Tampa. Money. So he signs a 1-year, $10 million deal. The Buccaneers were not signing him for $10 million. So
Right.
if his price was $4 million, I think they try to push for him to, even like people say, oh, you got the top 3 corners covered. They still need that cornerback 4. Peterson can still be a punt returner. There's other ways you can use him, but just, yeah, obviously $10 million, the Vikings are paying him to be basically their cornerback 1. So, and he's been very up and down. The last consistently good year he had was 2017.
Mm-hmm. Couple of more interesting moves. Gerald Everett signs with the Seattle Seahawks for a 1-year deal worth around $6 million. Jordan Lewis re-signs with the Cowboys. Curtis Samuel, we talked about that. He is now with the Washington football team. They're going to look pretty good there. The Eagles released Alshon Jeffrey and Malik Jackson, which could be very interesting to see where those guys go. I don't think the Buccaneers would be interested in either one of them. No. Bills are bringing back Levy Wallace on a 1-year deal. Matt Prater goes to the Arizona Cardinals. That's a good signing for them. Kenny Golladay, which this one's interesting, might join the New York Giants on a deal. That's going to be interesting. And apparently the Bengals gave him a 1-year deal. That's I guess been confirmed as they've offered it. Hasn't agreed to it or anything.
Apparently, yeah, the Galladay camp actually came to the Bengals with the idea of a 1-year deal.
Yeah.
So yeah, it seems like it's the Bengals or the Giants. I think the Giants are probably in the driver's seat because I think the Giants are actually offering 1 year, a multi-year deal.
Mm-hmm.
The Bengals deal probably is 1 year for $20 million or $19 million guaranteed probably because it's only 1 year. So what's that going to hurt?
Mm-hmm.
And they have the cap space to do it. Want to fill, put as many weapons and as many good resources around Joe Burrow as possible. But then, for the Giants, it's obvious they've been looking for a receiver for a long time. I know we said we weren't really talking about draft, but this could be a huge thing that impacts the draft because I myself, and I know pretty much almost every mock draft that I've seen has the Giants picking a receiver. If they sign Kenny Golladay, can you take a receiver off the board? I think you might be able to. I mean, they would have Darius Slayton there already with Golladay. I think they might be comfortable with that, but we'll see what happens. But that's why mocks before free agency are very tough to do. So
That's true. And then, by the way, one more bit of news, and this one does involve the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and then we'll focus on closing out this live stream here. A.Q. Shipley has signed to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, or I guess he's brought back to their coaching staff. He joined basically mid-season, right?
Mid-season by unfortunate circumstances, yes.
Right. So he had that really bad neck injury, which had forced him out of play. He had basically transitioned to the coaching staff midway through the season, and now he's officially on the coaching staff. So I'm happy for A.Q. Shipley. I don't know what his role is. It might be an offensive assistant, considering they just lost Antoine Randall to the Detroit Lions. Maybe they just put A.Q. Shipley right there in that spot. I'm happy for him. I'm happy to have him on this team. I think he's a really nice dude. So what do you think, Evan?
Yeah, well, it was it was our boy that broke it too. Mr. Pat McAfee. So
that's right. We do love ourselves some Pat McAfee here for the
we
brand.
Do.
Kevin,
I don't
have my For the Brand hoodie with me right now, but yes, we are for the brand here. Both me and Evan are. But guys, we've been going for a little bit over an hour now, so I think this is a pretty good place to conclude this live stream. But before we leave, I do have this I want to say. For those of you who are watching this right now who are not subscribed to the Cannon Fire podcast, Willie, one of my moderators here, has been posting the link all throughout the live stream.
Thanks a lot.
Go subscribe. Kevin, don't say I suck. Don't be mean. I'll drop a whole nother music video on you guys, and you don't want to see that. Yeah, go subscribe to the Cannon Fire podcast. I go on there all the time because we all love each other and we're all great friends and we all like to talk about the Bucs. And it's a phenomenal show. It really is. You guys need to check it out. I'm always talking about these guys, and I'm biased. The best Bucs podcast out there? I don't think that's much of a stretch to say. So seriously, go check my boys out. They're killing it out there. Let's try and get them to 3,000 subscribers. They're well on their way, and we're going to get them there together. So, yeah, guys, go check out the Cannon Fire podcast. Evan, before we go ahead and leave off here, do you have any final words?
If the Cannon Fire podcast gets to 10,000 subscribers on YouTube before you release your next music video, I'm going to be a feature on Jameson's next song. So
that's right. I actually thought about that. I was sitting there. I'm not going to spoil anything, but I was thinking about making more songs, right? Because now I have a process in my mind, you know? I'm like, man, can I just convert my channel? I was like, who needs to talk about Bucs news when you could just talk about Bucs songs, you know? And I was sitting there and I was thinking, I was like, man, okay, the boys are going to be, we're all going to be together in November. I was like, oh my gosh, we could totally do something. We'll push it down the pipeline. We'll see what's up. But, yeah. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching this live stream. By the way, Evan, do you want to plug your social medias?
Yeah, of course. So obviously, you can find me on Twitter at EvanNFL. I'm tweeting about the Bucs sometimes. We'll be honest, mostly tweeting about my hatred for Philly sports. So it's a love-hate thing with Philly. So you can find me on there, and then you can find me on Instagram at Bucs_daily, the #1 Buccaneers fan page on Instagram. And then you can find the podcast on Instagram at Cannon Fire Podcast, and also on Twitter at Cannon Fire Pod.
Right on. Well, with that being said, guys, we're going to end off this live stream. Thank you guys so much for watching this live stream. Hope y'all enjoyed. Evan will be here for many more live streams, as will Rhett.
Indeed.
Hey, I wasn't the one. Hey, Rhett makes fun of me for being late. He didn't even show up. He didn't even show up today.
Didn't even have the courtesy to show up. And how dare he? I don't understand. Oh, also, I gotta send a moment today. I forgot.
Oh
so so basically, before we get out of here, I gotta explain something really fast. So I've been looking at the old episodes with James on the show, and we have a bunch of funny moments with James for some reason. It's when the three of us get together, it's like, I don't know, like we got to have a live stream where we're not even talking about football, like we're just talking, and it's funny. There's a few moments, and I've literally screen recorded them and like saved them to my camera roll, and I've been sending them to James and Rhett as like a special series. And moment one was when I didn't realize how old exactly James was, and I am shocked by it. So we'll be posting them probably on social media at some point, but it was pretty good. And then moment two, which I can't really spoil for James, I'll be sending it soon. But I have like 6 or 7 different ones. So,
well, I'll keep you guys updated on the James from the Cannon Fire podcast moments. Also, thank you for everybody who's showing support on the music video. That's greatly appreciated. And thank you guys for 10,000 subscribers. Like that means a lot. That really does. Like that's insane. I never thought I'd get to 10,000 subscribers. I never even thought I'd get to 1,000 subscribers. So it means the world. I've been gift already multiple times with my dancing. I've seen a lot of people say that I haven't been giving. I saw one person say I didn't give enough effort in my dancing. I'll tell you what, I tried, okay? It's hard to pull out some Russian dance moves in the middle of freaking a busy beach where people are just staring at you going, what in the world is this
pirate costume?
This pirate person doing right now?
Right.
So yeah, I was a little...
I've already saved that GIF, buddy. So I'm going to be using that on Twitter a bunch.
Chris Fisher.
Love you, Chris.
Freaking Chris Fisher.
Love you, Fish.
My gosh, man. As soon as he sent, hey, you've been gift, I was like, well, all right. Okay, Kevin, look, apparently I've got to get to the gym. I've got to get to the beach because I'm scrawny and I don't get any sun. You know, it is what it is.
I mean, I have an excuse. You live in Florida.
Look, it's not even with the UV lighting right now. I just look like a ghost. I literally look almost as white as my blanket right now. But thank you guys so much for the support on the music video. That really does mean the world. That was very fun to record. A little awkward at some points. It is what it is. You know, might have got told off on the beach a couple of times, but it's fine. But anyway, guys.
Did you?
Well, I'll explain another day. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching this live stream. Hope you all enjoyed, and we will see you all in the next video or the next live stream. But until then, and as always, guys, goodbye for now. See you guys soon, and go Bucs.